right, so thank you guys. So glad to see all of y'all today. It's really nice to see everybody together, and I was standing in the back and watching everybody really get engaged and take notes and be excited about the things that Kendra presented, which are awesome, and we're all thoroughly excited about this project. And Kendra and Nikhil gave a lot of background for us. I have a little bit of background that I want to share with you too, but really what I want to do is kind of tell you how we've done the things that Kendra and Nikhil told you that we're going to do. What have we done to date? Where are we now and where are we going? And the goal here is for you guys to walk away feeling really good about this. And I think you will, about where we are and what our future looks like in our digital ecosystem across the state. So let's do it. So the agenda, again, the background, what's done, where we are now. I'm going to go through that fairly quickly because you've heard some, but some of it is very important to repeat. But really I want to focus on the where we are now into what's next, because like Jasmine just said, what's next involves all of us. And so it's going to be really important to kind of see what that means for you. So let's start. The background, Nikhil and Kendra talked a lot about the why. Why do we need this thing? The what? What is the thing that we need? And I want to talk a little bit about the how we do that. The who, which is all of us, and the when. So the first part of any project, hopefully, is to say, is there a problem that we're trying to solve? Because this isn't the kind of project you just do. This isn't something that's just fun. This is something we do because we need to. And so we found a couple of challenges that are facing our office. And Nikhil and Kendra have already talked about some of those. The first one being that we have this distributed digital landscape, and it continues to grow. And we have our information in kind of silos across, within an agency, across the agencies. We're storing all this data in all these places, lots of stuff to maintain, lots of stuff for our users to find, and they're all looking on different channels, and in some cases, as Kendra pointed out, they're getting different answers. And that's not good. And that's just a matter of it's hard to maintain all that stuff. So our digital landscape is a little bit inconsistent from an information perspective. And it's also inconsistent from a visual perspective. And one of the things that they've alluded to that we learned is that users expect some consistency when they go from one screen to another or one application to another. They don't care if it's a separate application. They're trying to do the thing they're trying to do. And if it looks totally different, that's a problem. So that's a problem for our office and one that we're ready to tackle. Another problem that we've discussed, issues with the current platform. So over time, this platform is, I think, 6 years old now. We've learned through tickets and through questions and conversations with you all where the pain points are. Document management, we know, we heard it, and we experience it, we live it too. It's not great. We've noticed that lots of text on these pages, really time-consuming to read, a lot of information, but there aren't a lot of flexible ways for you to lay it out any differently. You got a lot of words, you need to put the words up. So we're looking for ways to be more flexible there. All sorts of things, constrained layouts, hard to use, and of course, the look and feel. We understand it's a little bit outdated. The web has changed a lot since we deployed this platform, and we want our websites to look more modern too. All right, so two problems. They both need attention. What are we going to do about it? So we have our CMS, it's a web platform. The goal and the vision is to say, let's make it a digital platform. Let's address our digital landscape and not just our web landscape, because our users are all over the place. They're not just using the websites. So we want to expand it. It's not just for the web anymore. Consistency for users and the ease of maintenance for our agencies. So we have to build a platform for our digital future. And that means all of the channels. We have to find a way to share the content from one repository outward across the channels. So that means you don't have to maintain it in 5 places. It's not just hard, it doesn't just take a lot of time. It actually is bad practice. It's irresponsible to have data in 5 places because it's not a matter of when is it going to, or if it's going to become outdated. It's a matter of when is it going to become outdated. Sometime your user is going to find information that's inconsistent across multiple channels if they're in silos. So our goal, as Kendra expressed, is to have a single source of truth for information for our state using our centralized platform and distributing the information to the appropriate channels. so that as a user, when my dad, and I can promise you probably already met him, he'll be at your office, he'll be waiting in line at your office before you even open, whereas I'm gonna go on a chat bot in between my meetings if I have a chance. We both should be hearing the same thing, and we should be pulling the information from one place. So that's a lot, that's a big ask right there. It's gonna be a process, and it's going to be something that takes time. But what we're doing right now is building the foundation for that, for the digital future. All right, so we're going to use the platform, but we got problems with the platform. We just identified those. So we have to make it better. It has to be easier to use. We have to have some sort of a way to have this consistency, not just in the information, but also in the visual look and feel, consistent branding across. The system has to be easy to use. We have to find a way to address this document management thing. We have to have a way for these content types to be intuitive so that you will structure your content for syndication, and it's easy to do that. Right now, you can structure content, but it's hard to do, and it's not intuitive necessarily. You may not understand why you should use that content type when it's easier to copy and paste into a web page. So as we pointed out earlier this morning, the goal here is to make the right thing to do easy. That's not easy for our development partners, but we want it to be easy for you. All right, so as a project manager, for me, the question is, okay, no problem, how are we gonna do this? We have the need for for consistency and information across the digital landscape. We have a need for a consistent look and feel, at least a consistent tone across digital properties. And we have to fix this aging system that is difficult to use, and it has all of these challenges that we've been trying to address a little bit at a time over the course of several years. It's no small problem. And the only way to do it is with people. And that's you. And our full agencies, agency leadership, the citizens of Georgia, the people who are going to use this platform. The theme for the day is for the people, for you, and for your users, and with the people, all of us. We're going to build this thing together with feedback so that you're going to love it at the end. That's the way to go. So the next step in the project process is to validate. With all of this information that we've gathered over the years, we really felt like we understand what we need to do. We have a pretty solid path forward, but we're not going to do it in a silo. That's what we're trying to avoid. So the next step for us was to validate. And all the quotes that were up on the screen when Kendra was just presenting a minute ago and Nikhil even before, those quotes came from you through the process of talking to you and learning what your needs are. And that's what we want to do moving forward. We started this kind of validation process a full year ago. We had some experts come in and set up interviews with many of you. We had focus groups, we had one-on-one interviews. We've also set up the Center of Excellence, which I hope you guys are a part of, and if not, I hope you'll reach out to Yen. I promised Yen I'd be sure to plug her email just one more time in case y'all didn't get it. So anyway, so we did this research directly to validate these things, and it did validate a lot of things, but not just that, we learned new things. We learned things that are important to you that we didn't necessarily have top of mind, that there's granularity needed in user roles, or scheduled publishing is a thing that's really, really important. It wasn't just document management. We learned new things too, and that was great, so that really set us up. And then User Insights, who was here at GOVTalks last time, and I hope you all remember these guys, these are our archetypes. User Insights reached out to our users, reached out to Georgians across the state, and they asked them about their needs. And these are people who need your services. They need them. They have to file taxes, and some need child support or aging services or whatever it is. And so they talked to them and they found out, how do you get your information? What are some challenges that you have? How do you want to get your information? And again, we validated some things, and we also learned some new things. We were kind of surprised by some of the discussion that came back to us around the front end, because everybody loves flashy stuff, but what we learned from the Georgians, they don't expect flashy stuff from a government. They expect consistency. They want to trust that they're in the right place, and they didn't land on dmv.org or whatever it is. they want to know that the site that they're on is the site that they should be on by some sort of a visual cue. So that was good information to have. And so the next thing that we have to do, we feel like, okay, we're validated, we understand, this is a need and we know what we're going to do. So we built the dream team that Nikhil and Kendra talked about. And IDEO's here with us today, and they sponsored today, and we're so grateful. And they have done some great work. We walked through this procurement, which was such a process. It was really painstaking, but the payoff is huge because we were insistent that we found partners who are not only expert in their field, but also share the values that we have. Values about accessibility and values about data-driven decisions and talking to users and doing the research and not just going off into a silo and developing something based on a couple of bullet points. These are the kind of people that we wanted to work with, and we're so excited that we did. And of course they had to have public sector experience, and so IDEO, who's here today, I hope you guys will take the time to visit their website, but at IDEO.com, they have a whole part of their website about case studies for the government, how they made systems that have changed people's day-to-day interactions and how they have made the government accessible to people. And that was so appealing to us. And we saw some of their work, obviously, which is visually outstanding. Boston.gov, if anybody hasn't seen it, go look, because it's awesome. It's clean, it's fresh, it's easy to use. And that was an IDEO project. And so we were just really proud to bring them on board. And you'll see some of their work on our project this afternoon. And our development partner is Lullabot, who we've already referred to. And these guys are just in the Drupal community, just the creme de la creme. They are super intelligent, experienced. They're maintaining these core modules. Like Kendra was saying, Karen and Marcos are working on our project, and these are like Drupal celebrities. They're just awesome. And that's a development team. And also, Lullabot is handling the content strategy portion of our project. And content strategy is the part that says what content needs to be structured. All the talk about structured content that Kendra gave earlier, they're helping to architect that. What content needs to be in chunks so that it can go somewhere else? What content's just fine to leave it the way that it is? Because some of it is honestly just fine. So they're helping us to build this content model that will then apply to the new platform. And the thing we like the most about these people is the first thing that they did and that they promised to do and that they actually fulfilled after the proposal period, the first part of the project was to learn more. We gave them lots of information. We gave them all the stuff from last summer that I just referred to, all the information we've learned over the years from the tickets and from talking to you guys. And they said, oh, that's great. We're going to learn more. We're going to come in here and we're going to deep dive into this and we're going to find exactly what needs to be done. And so we were very excited about that. And they started with us in June. So I think it was maybe the third week of June or so. Everybody came in, and I hope you can see the screen. It looks very dark from where I'm standing, but there's pictures in the background of this workshop. We had this kickoff, but it wasn't just a bunch of talking heads telling us what they were going to do. It was a workshop with sticky notes and Sharpie markers and whiteboards and everything, and they asked us questions. And then from the answers, they asked us more questions. They guided us, but they didn't tell us. And that was so impressive to watch how they're learning and how they're gathering information about us as a team, us as a state, and our users as far as we know about our users. And they're starting to formulate some ideas and some more questions. And then after the kickoff, both of our teams took off and went out in the field. They didn't go back home. They went to 2 Peachtree, they came to the towers, they went to Conyers, they went all over the place to talk to some of you, many of you, actually, agency leadership, agency content managers, directly to say, what are the goals that you're trying to accomplish with your digital landscape? What's hard for you to do right now? What do you wish you could do? Questions like this. They asked them, they listened, and they learned from that. And they're applying that into the work that they're turning over. And then the Epic Road Trip, which you've heard about, I always call it the Epic Road Trip. Our IDEO partners came down from Boston. They started in Savannah, and they took a road trip all the way up the state back to Atlanta. talking to people, looking out the window, looking at the landscape, because if all you ever see is Atlanta, think of how much you're missing of Georgia. And so they said, let me talk to all these different people. And I won't give away all the answers. Tom and Emma and Heather are going to present and talk to you about some of the things that they found, but this was pivotal. They're talking to the people who use our services. It was really, really insightful. All right, so I plowed through a little bit of what's done already because I want to show you kind of where we are and where we're going next, because this is where it becomes really, really interactive between us. The first step, and where we are now, is we're building stuff. We don't have all the answers. And I don't remember if it was Nikhil or Kendra who said, maybe we have more questions than we did. Maybe we don't have the answers, but we're building anyway. And we're doing it in an agile way because this is how things get better. You start with something and then you iterate on it based on feedback. So our circle here says build, test, and iterate. And test, oftentimes in software development, makes you think QA. Let me see if this thing does the thing it's supposed to do. And like, for example, our document management system in D7 would totally pass QA. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, but it isn't meeting your needs. And so in this project, when we say test, we mean test with you guys. Of course, we're doing QA also, but we want to make sure that what we're telling the system to do is what it should do, not just that it does what we told it to do. We have to validate that step. So we're testing with the people. From a design perspective, IDEO went and gathered all this research. They talked to the agency's leadership, content managers. They talked to the citizens in Savannah, and then along the way to Dublin and Macon and here in Atlanta. And they synthesized that research, and they said, let me put out a straw man. Let me give you some of my thoughts based on what I've learned. And so they put together something, and the first thing they did was pick up the phone, share a screen, and say, hey, Sharonda, Mr. Macon that I talked to before, I heard you. Here's what my interpretation of what I heard is. What do you think? Is this what you meant? And took feedback. And that's the best way to develop something that's going to be sustainable for the long term, is to say, I heard what you said. Is this what you said? Well, not really. Let me change that thing. Okay, let me change that thing real quick. And that's so effective to make sure that we iterate toward a design that actually is reflective of what people expect. Our content strategy team, same thing. So, and this one is even harder to visualize and conceptualize because they created this Excel spreadsheet. I'm not kidding you, it is so complicated. It's our content model for the new system, and it has just all sorts of tabs, and they're color-coded, and if you're a librarian, it just makes awesome sense, but if you're not, right, I know, because I'm like, what? And so this is the content model for the new platform. This is how content will be structured, what fields should be included based on what they've seen and heard, and how that content will play into other pieces of content, like the wireframe that Kendra showed you before, with the contact kind of sitting to the side of the content. All of those sorts of relationships are mapped out in this spreadsheet. And it's really hard to consume. And how do you know if that's the right thing, right? So what they did after developing it is they came right back here to Atlanta and scheduled some calls with some of you. Some they had talked to before, some they had not, but this content model applies to all of you. And so they mapped it out. They made it as visual as they could. They had erasable whiteboards. It was hilarious. They had all the index cards and stuff. They came with a stack of little transportable whiteboards, which we love to tease them about. But they did this with you, and they learned some things. We validated some things, just like with the other research, that yeah, that content should be structured, or yeah, that makes sense to me. But then we learned some other things. Kendra referred to one of the content types. Just the name of it was called post. And we were all pretty happy with it. We were like, yeah, that makes sense. It's a post, you know. Everybody hated post. That word was like the worst word. And so it was very easy at this early stage to say, no problem, we're going to call that something else. Post is out. thanks to your feedback. Because otherwise, we would have just deployed the thing and you'd be looking at it going, post, what the heck is that? I'm not going to use that. But actually, after learning from you how you interpreted it, we found another name. Early feedback is the best kind of feedback. So that's what they did, and it was really, really, really helpful. We're almost there now. No more post. All sorts of things, but not post. So now we have our development team. And you guys haven't met them yet, but you will. So the development process is an agile process. And if you're not in IT or if you're not in software, you may not be very familiar with that. You might have heard of it, but I'll explain it to you in terms that at least I can understand. So I hope you guys will follow this. So we build the foundation first. We test it, we learn, we iterate, and then we build onto it something else. So in this kind of metaphor here, we start with a skateboard, right? It gets you from point A to point B. Some people are totally fine with a skateboard and it meets their needs. But then there are some folks who need a little bit of steering help. So you add the thing and you make it a scooter, you make it a bicycle. And over time, you're taking the same foundation and you're improving on it. You're adding new features to it to suit the needs of the people who need to use it. So that's the process that we're using for development. We're starting with the skateboards and then we're adding complexity as we go. All right, so what that means for you. So Nikhil brought up that bubble chart earlier that kind of showed the dynamic of our platform agencies and kind of how the websites, metrics about the websites just kind of relate to one another. A lot of our websites are very simple. A lot of them use site pages, maybe an event, maybe a document here and there, lots of pictures. And then some of our websites are very, very complex. They're updated daily. Some of them, I know you know, right? So they're updated all the time. And they have custom features. KO has some custom features on the DOR website, which are absolutely necessary. So we're starting with the foundation. We're starting with the wheels. And then we're going to add on the custom features a little bit at a time in a buildable way. And we're going to ask for feedback as we go. So as we're starting with the foundation, that's everybody. We're going to be polling you guys. We're going to reach out to you and ask you for some feedback as we have something that's workable, like the document management system that Kendra referred to earlier. It's almost ready to start showing some folks. Get a little bit of feedback. Does this make sense? Is this meeting your needs? And then move on from there. And then as we get to the more refined features, if it's a feature that's only used on one of the DHS sites, we're going to call Simone and we're going to say, does this work for you? Or we're going to call KO about, a special thing about forms or whatever. And what we're asking for here is feedback and participation so that we know what we give you is going to be something that you're going to be happy with when we're done. My husband is in software development, and I let him kind of walk through this last night, and he said, well, what I say to my team is, you can hate it all you want, but you have to hate it early so that you'll love it at the end. And so that's what we're trying to do. We don't want you to hate anything, but if you do, we'd love to hear about it before it's set in stone. You know what I mean? When it's harder to change down the road. We're in a situation right now where we have this very stable platform that's been in the mix for a long time. It's much, much harder to add a feature to that than it is to something that we're building from the ground. So when we ask you for feedback, it's because we really want to hear it. And I hope that you guys will participate with us. So that's where we are. And we know that the next step is somehow we've got to get these sites from D7 to D8. So we are ready to migrate soon. Not soon as in tomorrow, don't get me wrong, we'll get there. But this is something we're planning for now, even though it's a few months into the future, because all of us are going to be really, really important in this process. We're all going to have a role to play. And so we want to kind of give you guys a taste of what that looks like so that you'll be prepared and you can raise any concerns that you might have with us so that we can be assured that we're all on the same page. So the migration, one of the things that Kendra mentioned this morning that is so important is structured content, super easy to migrate. I'm not a programmer, so for me, I can say they just press a button and then it goes and it's fine. But unstructured content is hard. So those big site pages that we want to become structured content, not necessarily automated in this migration process. So we're going to talk about what that means and what we can do about it. All right, so the first thing that I'm assuming, it's an assumption, but most people are pretty curious about, is when is my site going to migrate? So we're in the very early stages of planning right now, and super early stages of development. And we're in the process of saying which sites are going to walk on the skateboard and which sites are going to require the convertible. And this says nothing about the quality of any site, just the needs of the site. So if we think about a skateboard, you might want to visit the Lake Lanier Islands website, llida.georgia.gov. It's an informational website. It has a very targeted audience. It has updates of news and meeting minutes and things like this, but it doesn't have a lot of complexity to it. So it's what I would call a skateboard. The convertible, large volumes of content, sometimes lots of content that should be structured because we might want it to go somewhere else. We might want this content to have legs. And an example of that is, let's take some of the DHS information. We know the child support stuff is so important to so many people, and the food stamp stuff, really, really universally important across our state, and we want to be able to syndicate that content. That's the kind of thing somebody is going to say, hey Google, or whatever, not to wake up your phone, but how do I get child support in Georgia? Or, hey Alexa, how do I sign up for food stamps? This is the kind of content that needs to be structured. It just does. And so we have to think about how are we going to get that content from its current state into a structured state as a part of this migration. I'm going to call that a convertible. And the same with DOR. We have some very important documents that are going to need to be looked at. We have lots of really important layout on the DOR site because they have three major things that they're trying to deal with across one website. They have landing pages and things like that. So there's some complexity there. So the easier kind of skateboard sites are going to go as those features are available. And in our agile process, those will be available. Then the next level of complexity is available and so on. So that's kind of our plan. And here is a very rough timeline. You can probably self-associate here, which am I, which level of features is sufficient for my website. It's hard to read, so I'm going to tell you that these are based on annual year, not fiscal year, but annual year quarters. So January through March of 2019, we expect to see our first deployments on the platform. And so we're going to see some skateboards taken off down the street. And then April through June, we expect the slightly more complex sites to go. And then in the summertime and then in the early fall, we're hoping to have all of our complex sites at least ready to go. This is flexible right now, so please don't take a picture necessarily, but this is what we're aiming for, and we think is really realistic too. Very important to note, again, we're not planning this in a silo. I'm not going to come to you and say, are you ready because your site's about to go? That's not how this is going to work. We're going to reach out as we kind of map out the schedule and make sure that it works for you, because there's work for you to do, and we want to make sure you have the capacity to do it. So we're going to find the right windows. We're not going to ask KO to migrate her website during tax season, for example. That would not be nice. So I want to give you guys a taste of this process. Some of you will remember 6 years ago at Drupal Day, I stood up here and I talked to you all about this process, right? And here we are again. This is different from last time, and I know not everyone in the room was here last time, but when we first came onto Drupal, we were on Vignette, and we had 3 different versions of Vignette. And it didn't work that well. And in some cases, it just didn't work. I won't even say that well. And so Nikel says that our migration last time was an evacuation. It wasn't a migration. And it was, truly. We were trying to get off of that thing before it totally broke. So this time, we're trying to take a stable platform and a system that works relatively well and make it better. It's harder. It's not going to be the same. Last time we were concerned with parity of features. If it has an event in Vignette, it better have an event in Drupal, right? But now we're saying we want to have content that has legs. We want structured content. We want the content to be better. And we're looking past the websites. Our future is Alexa and whatever thing comes after Alexa that I can't even imagine, but I know they're thinking about. You know, we want people to have the chat bots and all of the things to be consistent and use this as a single source of truth. So it's a different project. It's a similar process, but it's going to be a little bit of work. So all that to say, nobody is in this alone. We're not going to hand you the keys and say, good luck with your D8 website. I hope you start copying and pasting. That's not what is about to happen. So instead, what we're going to do, similar to what we did last time, is assign someone from our team to work with each of the agencies one-on-one, so that you have somebody to call and ask questions, somebody to keep you up to date, to consult you through the migration. They're going to know your website and work with you to make sure that you're comfortable with everything that's happened. You can rely on this person. And we think that what we're going to do is assign somebody to each website about 3 months before the website would be deployed. So this is where the pre-work starts. And so the first thing, and this is very important, and this is different from the last time, is to do this content audit. So our content strategy partners at Lullabot are helping us to put together key metrics and key items to look for on each website to make sure that it's going to migrate as easily as possible, but as effectively as possible, so that our new product is what we want it to be. And so what we're going to do is come to you, your migration consultant and some other folks are going to come to you with a whole bunch of information about your website. And we're going to ask you to look critically at your content, and with in mind that some things are going to migrate easily and some things are not. But this is when we're going to pick out the things that are not and identify what's our mitigation strategy here. What are we going to do about these things? So some of the boundaries, and bear with me because I have these notes. I don't want to forget to mention anything here because this is really important. So some of the boundaries for migration. Very old content. We don't expect very old content to migrate in an automated fashion. And that's because it's not good for our users to see very old content which is outdated, which hasn't been updated, and it may even be inconsistent or incorrect, inaccurate. So we're going to come to you with a list. Here's some content. In fact, we're going to have this report available tomorrow, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but here's all your content on your website by page, and this is stuff that hasn't been updated in over 1.5 years. Or this is stuff that has never been updated since it was created. And we're going to ask you to look at it. It's important. And we're going to say, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to delete it? Or do you want to make it something else? Do you want to say, that's just policy, I got to have it up here even if I never touch it? We'll find a way to get that to migrate, but we want some critical thought put into that stuff. And here's another husband story because he's hilarious. He said, he really is. He said, you got to tell him about the box. And I was like, oh no. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share this with you. So I hope everybody does. It could just be me, but I hope everybody has this box that you moved with your house that you never unpacked. Maybe it's just me, but I hope not. So I have this box that is in my guest room closet that I packed 2 houses ago. So I moved out of my very first house. We moved all our stuff into our second house. And this box never got unpacked. And it just sat like literally in my bedroom in this little nook, and I put a pillow on top of it because my cat liked to sleep on it. And so, seriously. And so I almost brought a picture and then I said, that's too much. So, so the box, okay, so that was the last house. This house, it's still there. It's in my guest room closet. I have not opened it. I don't know why, but it's there. Right? And I'm assuming I don't need the stuff that's in it, considering I've never opened it. I have no idea what's in this box. But for some reason, I hold on to it. I just can't let it go. It's just this box that's super important to me. And I'll tell you all this, I packed that box in 1999, and it's in my guest room closet still. I don't know what's living in this box. But anyway, all that to say, that's ridiculous. That's insane. There's no reason to have that box. And I justify the box because I'm like, what's in the guest room closet? Who cares? It's not hurting anybody. But if you think about the metaphorical box that lives on your website, this content that hasn't been updated in all this time, it's fine if it's in your guest room closet. But it's on the internet. I mean, people can see this. They can see all of your box. And we don't want that because some of what's in there is bad. And it's stuff you don't want people to see. I mean, seriously. So that's the point. That's why we don't want this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with having it. You can print it out and put it in a box and put it under your desk if you want to. But it's probably good to at least look at it and say, should it migrate? Or could I touch it up a little bit? Something like that. We're trying to protect you guys from having stuff brought over that really is going to do more harm than good. Some other things that won't go automated, at least we're not intending at this point, but as you talk to your consultant, we can find out one-on-one. Archived content, drafts of content, we're not going to move those things. And so we would ask that before we migrate, if there's an archive that you really need because you would like revive it once a year or something, think about that and just make a note. And when we come and talk to you, let's talk about that and we'll find a way to make sure that we don't lose that. And then there's some content that's going to be a little bit tricky for an automated migration. And there's a couple of reasons content can be tricky. One is because of technical stuff. So content that has iframes embedded in it, that's tricky. So we're going to want to make a note of those pages during the content audit and say, you know, there's something embedded on this page that's going to need some manual intervention. Web forms. We have a much better tool for web forms. And we didn't touch on that earlier, but that's another one you're going to be excited about if you've had to go off-site to have a complex web form. But we're going to have to rebuild web forms manually in the new system. So we're going to want to make note of those things. Home pages, obviously, are going to need a lot of manual tweaking. Landing pages the same way. And any page that has really heavily applied manual formatting, where you're trying to make the most of the system that we have now, and you're trying to lay things out in a way that you really want to. If there's a lot of like HTML in there and you're trying to move things and make it just so, those things are going to need a little bit of manual intervention. And so, you know, we'll just make note of those in the content audit and figure out what to do. All right. And so the other thing about the content audit that I want to make sure that everybody understands is it's not just for the migration. This content audit is going to show things about your content that we were referring to earlier, reading level. This content is reading at a college reading level, or this content has accessibility problems, or this content has certain things about it that are of note. And it may not have any impact on the migration, but it's your roadmap that you can have to make your content better all the time. It's not necessarily stuff that has to be done for this migration. Content at a poor reading level is still going to migrate, but we want you to have awareness of it and look at it and think about it so that you can plan for your future. Do I want to rewrite that content maybe at a little bit of a lower reading level? So it's really beneficial. It's great for the migration. It's imperative for the migration, but I think it's also really good just in general. So some of these things we're going to be able to fix in D7. So if you have tables that are used for layout, which I was an early web developer and I can nest tables like nobody's business, but that's really not best practice anymore. So if you have tables for that, you can adjust those in D7. We can guide you and we can give you some feedback about stuff like that you can be editing now so that that page will automate in the migration and it won't be so much of a headache later. Things like, throw away the boxes. You can throw those away anytime. We're going to have this report for you starting tomorrow under site reports on your logged in Drupal state in your interface, and you can see that stale content. That's in our release that's coming out today. And there's also, of course, your most viewed and least viewed content reports. Those are available now, and so use them. You can, even before you're ready to migrate and before your migration consultant is assigned, go in there and take a look and see if you can purge some stuff. Do it, absolutely, no reason not to. Yeah, so that's the pre-migration fixes. There will be some post-migration fixes that we'll talk about too. But one of the things, the next thing that's going to happen in this migration process is the layout, which is the stuff that IDEO is going to talk to us a little bit about. We have this flexible design system. It's this component-based design system. That's going to allow for us a lot of flexibility, site by site by site, even in some cases page by page, of how the content will render. We have colors, we have the color palettes that you probably already perused this book. We have layout options. We're going to talk to you about those things, your home page, any landing pages that you already have or that you may need. And that'll probably be about a month before the migration so that we can manually do those things for you. And then we're going to migrate. And so the actual migration is, we think it's going to take about 3 weeks. I was talking with Lullaby about that. And we're still a little ways off, so that may change. But I think 3 weeks is a pretty good rule of thumb. So the way that it's going to work is they're going to run an automated migration. They're going to look at your content audit and all of the weird things that we kind of flagged and said these are in need of help. They're going to automate whatever they can, and they're going to push go. I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate me simplifying this. Push a button and then it'll go. And it'll be great. But then they're going to look at it and they're going to say, is that right? They might need to iterate on it. And they might update their scripts a little bit one time and then do it again. But at some point, they're going to say, this is ready for you guys to look at. And that's when we and you will come together and look at this site. It's going to be built next to your site. It won't interfere with your current site. This is on a separate platform that we'll do kind of in parallel, so your new site, your old site's totally fine. But we're going to stand it up on this new environment and give you the chance to look at it after the automated migration. And this is where we'll work together to do those things that we have flagged and said, well, this iframe needs to be fixed, or this thing or that thing needs to be fixed. And we're going to ask you to sit with us and get in there and work on it with us. For a couple of reasons. The most important reason being this is your site, and we want it to be yours. And we really want you guys to get in there and feel it and learn it before you're stuck with it in production saying, what? So we're hoping to be able to work together on some of those. And at the same time, we'll identify any bugs or issues, and we'll categorize them. So some are going to be called launch blockers. We will not go live if your site is completely like jacked up and it's not working and there's content missing and whatever. We're not going to do that to you. We're not going to leave you with a broken site. But there are some things that will say this is a post-migration fix, post-launch issue. And that may be that something's not exactly pixel perfect, or an image might look a little bit fuzzy because it's at a different width or something. I'm making that up, but that's a possibility. So we're going to log these things. The launch blockers will be handled before you're deployed, but the post-launch blockers will be handled after you're deployed. We have to be pragmatic. We have to make sure that we can continue moving so that everybody can deploy. So if we're, debating a pixel here and there, that's likely something that we'll come back to after. So then we're going to go. We're going to ask for your final sign-off, and we're going to deploy you to production. And that'll reroute your, traffic from the old site to the new site. We'll archive the old site, and it'll be available to you behind a password, of course, so that the Google people of the world don't necessarily have access to it. But if you say, a month later, oh gosh, I can't find this content, I really need it, we'll still have it, so don't worry. But the site will be in your hands, and you will be trained. We'll have training sessions throughout this entire migration process. We'll have materials that we'll be working on that you can take with you, like we do now, the manuals. and we'll have sessions with our batches of migration. We're not going to leave you not knowing how to use the system. We're going to train you on how to use it, and we're going to be available just like we are now through our support desk to take tickets. So, feeling pretty good about that. So, sounds like work, and it is, but it's not bad, and you're not alone. So let's talk about kind of what the expectations are going to be, or what the real needs are going to be for you as an agency partner, and then also what you're going to get out of this. So what I do, and I'm you, so what I do, get the site ready. Get it as ready as you can, and be ready to help and participate through the content audit process. Look at your site critically and think about the things that Kendra was saying earlier and Nikhil was saying about search results and all the reasons you might want to structure content. Identify content that might be really, really important to structure versus content that's probably just A-okay as it is. You can do this now. Update content. Reformat it. If you have a bunch of events in a site page, put them in an event content type, because that'll migrate easy. But if the event is going to happen after your migration, there's no sense in doing that for the migration if the event's going to come and go. But putting content in the right content type, getting it up to date, getting rid of the box. Please throw away the box. I promise if y'all get rid of your deleted or your old outdated content, I'll throw away my box. I'll tell all y'all what was in there, and then I'll throw it away and I'll take a picture. But those are things you can be doing now. And then during the migration, please be ready to participate. When Lullabot runs the automated thing and then finally says to us it's ready to review, please review it. Please review it with a critical eye and make sure it's how you want it to be, because this is going to be your new website. Work with us. Make the tweaks that are necessary. Help us and let us show you how to do these things and be active in that process. And then please let your leadership know, or whoever has the final sign-off on your website, and hopefully maybe it's a lot of y'all, be ready to approve it, understanding that we have deployment blockers and non-deployment blockers, and that websites are living things that can always be updated later. So we'll ask that of you, to please be ready to review it, tweak it, and approve it for deployment, and continue to work on it down the road. And then what you get out of it, you get us, you get our support all along the way. Nikhil's team is building this with our partners as a service. So it's a big project, and we're providing this big tool for all of our digital futures. And then you have us as a team also with your migration consultant. Sharonda runs our support desk. She's ready to take tickets. We're ready to help you. You get a modern, updated design, which everybody really is interested in, and Tom and Heather will talk about, and Emma. You get an easy-to-use platform. All the things Kendra just showed you, you can put your documents in the WYSIWYG, and we're not going to be mad at you about it. It's awesome. You don't have to create a whole new page for that anymore. And the system is going to be ready for syndication. We're not saying that your content is going to be syndicated the moment that you deploy, but we want you to know that the system is going to be ready to facilitate that down the road. And as a part of this content audit, you get a roadmap for continuous improvement for your website. All the things, the reading level, the accessibility, you'll be able to see how these things are ranking on your site right now, and you can make a plan on how you can make your website better. And the best thing that we're all going to get out of this is really, really better served users. That's what this is about. This isn't about us necessarily. This is about us serving the public who need our services, and they need consistency, and they need to trust us and that they're in the right place. And so through a unified brand and an easy to use platform that can syndicate content, we are going to have better served users. Alrighty, so the next steps. We are reaching out to our first batch, our skateboard folks. Not all of them, but some of them, because there's actually quite a lot of them. But we're making arrangements with some sites, and I saw Grace earlier, but I don't see her now. Oh, Grace, she's one. And so we're reaching out to start making sure that some of our early sites are comfortable with being kind of the guinea pig in this, and of course We won't set you out, Grace. We're going to take care of you. We're going to start the site audit process there, and then we're going to map out kind of the rough schedule. What is the other sites? Where are we going to fit in? And we're going to start reaching out to say, we think that your site might go in somewhere around May. Is that okay with you? And if not, iterate and figure that out. And what we're asking you to do as a next step is just start thinking about your content. You don't have to wait for your migration consultant. Check out the report. It's going to be available in the morning tomorrow of the stale content. We'll come to you with ideas when it's time for the content audit, but there's no reason not to start now. And then engage your leadership. We're really, really asking for you guys to rally behind this project with us and help us to express its importance and its benefit to your agency partners. Because what we really want is for everyone to see why we're doing this and not just the overhead that is kind of part of it. Because it is some work. There's no doubt about it, but the benefits are enormous. So, be heard. Here's Yen's email address, everybody. Sorry I don't have her phone number. But seriously, please, we've done a lot of homework here. We've worked really hard. We're going to be with you throughout this entire process. It's a really, really important thing that we're doing. And we want your feedback. We wouldn't ask for it if we didn't really think it was important. We want you to love this thing and use it. And we want our users, our Georgians, to benefit from it. So please be heard. We'll send you surveys. Rachel even has one set up right here. We'll invite you for question and answer. We'll invite you to test early stages of things. And please participate. We definitely want to hear your voices. And thank you.